Hello, Collateral Gaming listeners. Chazzle Dazzle here from the Trial by Error Variety Show podcast. I just wanted to take a few seconds to invite you guys over to what we do. No, it's not video games, but we do invite really awesome and unique bands from all over the world. We dig deep into their souls and find really cool stories to tell you, and there's tons of music every week, so subscribe to us wherever you subscribe to your podcast. We look forward to having you.
Tonight on the bonus round, it's video game recommendation time. As host Ash and returning guest host Zachary delve into 5 recommendations each of some of our favorite video games from our childhood. Don't go anywhere. The show starts right now. Welcome to Collateral Gaming bonus round. I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Zachary Guillot.
And tonight we are giving our video game recommendations.
Woohoo!
It's going to be a first. This episode has definitely been delayed. I've been meaning to get this out for the past 2 months or so, or I think even more than that. But anyway, we're not going to get into too much here, but this is Zach's second time on here, right, man?
Yes, sir. Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And we might be seeing more of him soon, so.
Woohoo!
All right, but we're going to get right into it. What is your first game, Zach?
All right, so I spent a little bit of time on this list, but just coming up with it off the top of my head, the first game that popped into my head was 007 Nightfire. It was released back in 2002 for the PlayStation 2. And a little bit later for the Nintendo GameCube. And, I was so excited when I first got my hands on this game. I didn't get to play this game until about 2005. And at that point, I had watched and seen all of the Pierce Brosnan 007 movies. And I was absolutely in love with them. I thought he was really cool. Of course, Daniel Craig is here now, so we're not going to talk about that. But he's my favorite. But forget I said that. When I started playing that game, from the first mission of the campaign to my first multiplayer match with my sister, and she kicked my tail, I loved every minute playing that game. You could just put yourself in the world as Pierce Brosnan for the first time since GoldenEye came out, and I absolutely loved that. Back for 2002, graphics like that to me were insane. I was a little kid. And I just loved it. From the first mission where you're infiltrating the Russian castle during the party, I might add, to the end where you're stopping the launch of a spaceship. You got to go up. I think the mission is called Countdown, and that's the next to last mission where you have to infiltrate and go in and break down. Oh my goodness, you have to break down. Oh goodness. I'm losing it. I'm so sorry, dude.
It's all good, dude. I've never played that one, but, everyone loves James Bond films, and everyone has fond memories of GoldenEye. That's usually the 007 game that people talk about.
One of my favorite games on the Nintendo 64 to this day.
Yeah. And this was on the next era, the PS2, GameCube, Xbox generation, right?
Yes, sir. I wish they had released it for Xbox, but I don't think they did.
No? Okay. Well, we'll have to check that out. But anyway, yeah, that sounds like a fun one. I'll have to get into that. I've never even played GoldenEye, actually.
Oh my goodness, man. That's something you and I are definitely going to have to get into, or just you at some point. That game is top tier. Playing is, oh my God, Odd Job with the hat that you can throw and just take people out, and you can run around with the gold gun and just absolutely take people out with one shot. It was beautiful. And the graphics weren't the best, but what are you going to do? It's the 64.
Yeah. Confession time. All right. I've never played, but I didn't really grow up with the 64. The GameCube was my first console. My mom didn't let me play video games until I was a little bit older. I mean, I was in elementary school still, but
I understand that. I think my first console was the Dreamcast, and I think, in 4th or 5th grade, and it was a Valentine's Day gift, which I had never gotten one of those. Didn't even think those existed because, back then girls were icky, but didn't really think about that. But yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. I 100% recommend that game. And Nightfire doesn't stem too far from that. They stayed with the basics of, double oh 007 multiplayer gameplay, but made it a lot more intense because not just bringing back grenades and stuff like that, but they also brought like little shock charges into the game that you could place on walls and electrocute your enemies. And they brought heavy snipers into the game where they had a winter COVID sniper and a tactical sniper that the COVID sniper had COVID, my bad. The COVID sniper. The COVID sniper had the winter tactical suppressor on it. And so you could silently take out your enemies, and it was just so cool. Immersing myself in that as a little kid was just incredible, and eventually I got so good at it that nobody wanted to play with me anymore because it was just 20-0 at the end every single time. But yeah, 100% recommend that game. If you haven't played it, the story is absolutely amazing. It's so good to go through multiple times. I will say that it is extremely difficult, even on the easiest difficulty, just because of the way the game mechanics work. The NPCs and the enemies are just, they're nothing to gawk at. They'll take you out if you're not paying attention. But I will recommend there's one weapon in the game that stands above all others, and there's a plasma laser that you get in the last mission where you have to take out the rocket right before it launches into space. Unfortunately, you're unsuccessful, which the final mission of the game takes you into outer space, and you have to do a spacewalk while fighting goons to try to stop that countdown before it just goes down and blows up a large corporation, which is funneling billions of dollars. But, I won't spoil it for you. You go in and you enjoy the story. That's my first video game recommendation, 007 Nightfire for the PlayStation 2 or the Nintendo GameCube. If you haven't played it, you are missing out. Do yourself a favor and get a copy.
And I just looked it up. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, it did come out on the Xbox. Yeah. There was other versions as well for Windows, GBA, and Mac, but it was a different version of the game. But yeah, that version of the game also came out on Xbox, apparently.
Yeah, oh, wow. Now that I think about it, yeah, I think I bought a copy from GameStop when they were still selling GBA games. And I played it for 20 minutes. Yeah. That's it. It was terrible.
Oh, really?
It was putrid because, the graphics for that time, they weren't bad, but they were already bad enough. And putting that on the Game Boy Advance, it just didn't sit right, and nothing felt right. And I was just like, no, I can't do this.
Well, that was back during a time when all games came out with a portable and a console release. It was weird.
Yeah.
They
did their best to entertain everybody, those who didn't have consoles and those who had the little portable devices. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, my first recommendation is Skate 3. Now, the Skate video game series, I've mentioned it before. I think it is objectively the best skateboarding video game series. I know the Tony Hawk remasters are coming out with Pro Skater 1 and 2, but I think Skate just blows Tony Hawk out of the water. It is more realistic. The controls are more fun. And it's just so much more, it's more grounded with skater culture, I want to say.
It's so much more in depth with what you can do on those games. And, it was cool to be able to bust combos on Tony Hawk Pro Skater and even Tony Hawk's American Wasteland.
Or Underground.
Yeah, or Underground. And it was just so groundbreaking with what you could do. Like, you literally using the right thumbstick, the way you tilted it, you could do, of course you crashed a lot if you didn't know what you were doing, or you bailed, excuse me. But man, once you got good at that game with the perspective, it was just fantastic. I loved it. Skate 3, I put quite a bit of time into.
Yeah, me too. And I've played Skate 1 and 2 as well, but 3 is definitely the best out of the series.
Cannot wait for Skate 4.
I know, and they finally announced it.
Yeah.
It skipped an entire generation, but I'm so stoked for it. I've been waiting for years for Skate 4, and I can't wait to see what they do on the new generation of consoles. It's going to be amazing. But Skate 3 is definitely the best that's out so far. I think 2 made the most leaps and bounds from the first game, but 3 takes everything good in 2 and it improves upon it. I like how you build your own team of skaters. I like how you have your own brand and you can make your own skate park. There's the whole skate park creator and everything. And I remember customizing all 5 of my characters in the game. And I decided I wanted a little bit of diversity among my skaters. So, I made sure I had minorities and women represented in my skate crew.
Yes.
But yeah, I had definitely people of color and a woman in my skate crew. That was important to me, at least in my most recent playthrough.
Yes, sir. You got to do it.
But yeah, no, the Skate 3 was number 1. I think the best skateboarding game that's ever come out, and that's coming from someone who 100% really enjoyed like Tony Hawk's Underground. I mean, that's a fun game, but and I think the Tony Hawk series holds a lot more nostalgic value, but Skate just blew it out of the water. My introduction to the series was actually Skate It on the Wii and the DS.
There was a skate game released for the Wii and the DS. Oh my gosh, I am so uncultured. I had the Wii for the longest time, and it was the only thing I had. I could have been blessing my life.
Yeah, there was. It was more of a spin-off, and it came out between Skate 2 and Skate 3, but it's called Skate It. And yeah, it was released for both the DS and the Wii, and the controls were pretty cool. They introduced the Flick It system with motion controls and with touch controls, and that was pretty interesting. Not as doesn't feel as intuitive as doing it with the thumbsticks does, but it was still a really cool system. You could even play it with the Wii balance board.
Oh man, I can't even imagine the struggles that people dealt with. Now I kind of want to go buy one just to experience.
It wasn't very good, but you could do it. Do you remember that Tony Hawk game that came out that you had a board? It was Tony Hawk Ride, I think. It was hard, and I'm saying that as a skater. Like, I was a skater in middle school and high school, and I had trouble with it because the board just didn't work very well. But nevertheless, or actually, I guess I should say nonetheless, Skate 3 was the game that skaters played. So
the first time I played that game, I was like, man, I was coming from Tony Hawk, and I was just like, what is this? This is weird. And then I got into it, and I started learning the controls. I was like, whoa, this is sick. This is so cool. You can do so much more. There's so much more opportunities for stuff. And playing with friends was awesome too. Like just doing trick battles. Oh, that's one of my favorite things about that game is playing with people. And yeah, that was a game I feel like was more created for a solo play, but taking turns with friends and just trying to do tricks better than the other, seeing how accurately you could flick the stick. I remember those days fondly, and it was crazy. All the stuff that we got into.
You could play Skate, and I remember you could enter other people's worlds. I can't wait to see what they do with Skate 4. I'd really like them to expand on the multiplayer component in particular, but the solo experience is...
Yeah, since they skipped a generation, I feel like Skate 4 is going to be absolutely mind-blowing with what the Series X and the PlayStation 5 are going to be capable of, and PCs nowadays, if they release it on PC, which I hope they do. But I'm so excited to see what kind of innovations they've made. It's going to be wild.
Yeah. And Skate 3 already, it was just such a phenomenal game. I mean, it just came out on PS3 and Xbox 360. A PC version would be really cool. I'd like to see what they do with the Flick It control system.
Yeah, the mouse would be wild.
Keyboard and the mouse.
Yeah, but I liked all the cameo appearances, or not even cameos. I mean, all the skaters in the game are like real life pro skaters, which Tony Hawk does as well. But there's just so many different characters and so many different brands, not characters, but actual, people. And you have like Giovanni Retta is your cameraman throughout the first 2 games. And then Shingo, who's a fictional original character, takes over in Skate 3.
Yeah.
If I have to say there's one low point, it's Retta is not the commentator in Skate 3 because he's just so funny. But he talks so much. But yeah, that was my number one, Skate 3. What's your next game recommendation?
Um, okay, so the next one that popped into my head was a game that I got early on as a kid. When we got the Dreamcast, as I said, it was a you and I were talking earlier. I told you it was a Valentine's Day gift, you know. And one of the games that we got with the Sega Dreamcast was Rayman 2, The Great Escape. And I had no idea who Raymond was, what he was about. I had no idea what was going to happen in the game, so I just turned it on and I started playing. And it took me a few months to really get into it, but once I did, it became one of my favorite games of all time. If you haven't played Rayman 2: The Great Escape, it's out on PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast, possibly out for Xbox. I will have Ashley fact check me on that because apparently I was dumbed down with Nightfire.
No, it says it was on Nintendo 64, PC, Dreamcast, and PS1.
Okay.
Xbox didn't exist yet.
Oh yeah, that's right, because it came out in 1999. But yeah,
Yeah.
this game was absolutely fantastic. Like I said, it was the first I had heard of Raymond, and this little guy, he looks like a puppy dog with no limbs connecting his body to his arms. He's just
Yeah.
got floating legs and floating hands, and but progressing through the game, I felt like as a person I was also getting stronger. Throughout the game, you're supposed to collect these little things called lums to return the energy to the world so that you can save the world, you know, it's in danger. And the first power up you get, you're able to, you know, increase the amount of time that you can flap your ears for, because one of Raymond's biggest things, if you haven't played any of the games, is his ability to float and fly through the air using his ears. They turn into a little helicopter and you can propel yourself, and I thought that that was so cool. And another power up that you got later on in the game, because Raymond can shoot little balls of energy from his hands, it's kind of like, it's almost like a boomerang effect. When you throw the little ball of energy, it comes back to your hand and you take out enemies that way, and that's how you can also break cages to rescue the lums, which are like the little fairies that are little bits and pieces of energy that you can find all around the world. And you can collect every single one in all the worlds, or you can just go straight through the story. It's really up to you. But I had a lot of fun with that game as a kid. Ashley, do you have any Rayman experiences? Because that was my first and only game that I ever played involving Rayman. I tried to get into the others, but I just couldn't. This game has so much nostalgia for me just because of where it was in my life when I grew up, and I just absolutely loved it.
I had played. There was a demo of a Rayman game on the 3DS that I played a little bit of, and it was pretty fun. I remember when Rayman Raving Rabbids came out, and that was a big thing. And I played the Rabbids and Mario crossover game. I have that game on Switch. What was it called again? Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is kind of a weird combination, but it's a pretty fun game. I liked it. It was kind of this strategy, or what do you call that? It's like an RTS in a sense. It was a turn-based tactical role-playing game. There you go. I was gonna say it's like RPG. It's actually really fun. It's a really interesting. But yeah, that's really my only experience with the Rayman franchise. I haven't really gotten into it. I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that game as a kid, and I should have dived deeper into the series, but you know, I didn't. You know, I got caught up in. I got really big on the Zelda franchise, and that kind of took me away. You know, because until I got a Wii and started playing Call of Duty Black Ops, where that's for another time. that was really the only thing I played. I had the Game Boy Color, and I had a GameCube, and Zelda was my main focus because I'd just fallen in love with it. Because alongside the Dreamcast, I got a Game Boy Color with Oracle of Ages, and so yeah. But Rayman, that's my second pick. It's definitely a game that you should check out if you haven't played it. Rayman 2: The Great Escape, absolutely fantastic. From world to world, the game just gets better and better. And I won't spoil anything. The power-ups are absolutely sickening. If you like games where you get power-ups over a period of time, definitely check this out.
Yeah, I definitely would like to get into the Rayman franchise. I've heard a lot of good things about it, and it's definitely one of those standout platforming games that a lot of people talk about.
100%. Definitely recommend it.
And it was made by Ubisoft back when it was Ubisoft.
Yep.
When it was two words. But before they got into all the microtransactions and became this notorious name that's almost as bad as EA.
Oh my God! Please don't even bring EA into the conversation. Which, funny fact, EA was the developer for 007 Nightfire. Oh man! And now they're just microtransactioning everything. That's why I don't play Battlefield anymore.
Yeah, EA. I mean, there's been some good hits. Fallen Order is one of the few surprising things that came out of EA, and I think it's because EA stood out of the way and let the developers like do what they wanted to do.
Yep, they didn't make it about money. They focused entirely on the story with that game, and that to this day will be one of my favorite story-based games. Not only because it's Star Wars, but just because it's so well done. And obviously, when you can accidentally force push a boss off a cliff and win in one hit, it's so good.
The best part of the game. And we definitely touched on that at our Jedi Fallen Order review. But it kicks Battlefront's ass, I think.
100%. Yeah, even though Fallen Order is not multiplayer at all, it's just that game is leagues above any other Star Wars game I've ever played.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things about KOTOR, but you know, the jury's still out. But my next recommendation is a crossover, actually, another crossover like we were talking about with Rayman and the Rabbids, or Mario and the Rabbids. My bad. But this was a collaboration between the Zelda series and the Dynasty Warriors.
Ooh, I know where you're going with this.
Hyrule Warriors.
Yes.
And there's a version, I have all three. I played the original on the Wii U. I played the 3DS port / expansion called Legends, and I have the definitive edition on Switch. But Hyrule Warriors is a lot of fun. And you wouldn't think it would be if you're if you're a Zelda fan. It's definitely not the same kind of gameplay that you're used to. It's Dynasty Warriors with Zelda characters. It's Dynasty Warriors gameplay. But they managed to bring in a lot of the Zelda aspects, like the puzzle solving and the item-based gameplay and the bosses. A lot of that is in there, and you can tell the developers really were fans of the series. There are a lot of references to every Zelda game practically exists somewhere in the game.
Yeah, and there was so much detail that they put in just the map. Like everywhere you look, there was a reference to some game. Like Hyrule Field was perfect. The way they did it, just they made it long and vast, but giving you checkpoints to go to, like Hyrule Castle and Zora's Domain and all of these things that made the game so much better. And at first, I didn't really care for it too much, just because it wasn't Zelda-like gameplay. I bought that game thinking it was going to be another Zelda game, and I was sorely disappointed. But only for about 20 minutes until I started realizing, hey, I can take out massive groups of Bokoblins with Link, and it's incredible. This is what I've always wanted, and I didn't even know it.
It's so fun, just completely taking out armies as a Zelda character. And let me tell you, I've been playing all these games recently, but I've been playing the shit out of Hyrule Warriors, and I beat the campaign again, and I'm going through adventure mode again, and I have leveled Link up so high past the other characters. Like, I can make any level on adventure mode my bitch right now.
Or at least on the first map. I know the other ones
are harder, but Link is in level is in the 60s right now, because I just completely focus solely on his character. Like, even if a map asks for one character but gives you the option to play as a second, which it does in the definitive edition and the Legends version, because you can switch between characters, I'll add Link, and I'll just make that entire level so easy. And I can level up the other character a little bit, but Link allows me to beat every level because I've just leveled him up so high compared to the other characters.
I mean, if you don't make Link OP, are you a true Zelda fan?
Right?
But I had so much fun with that.
Yeah.
He has to be.
I just got my Wii U back recently, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on another copy of Hyrule Warriors just to experience it again. Because, like you said, it's different from the series, but it's beautiful in its own way, and the way they mixed it up with Dynasty Warriors is just perfect.
Yeah, it's a love letter to the fans, and I'm definitely waiting for a sequel to Hyrule Warriors, which I expect there will be because it was a hit. I believe it did really well, actually, commercially and critically, but it definitely took me by storm. I got hooked on the gameplay right away, um, and I keep thinking about ideas for what kind of characters they could bring in and what kind of stages they could bring into the next one. I gotta say, Groose needs to make it in Hyrule Warriors 2. And then there's a perfect weapon that would be available for him. It can be the mini Groosinator. it would be like basically like a makeshift like grenade launcher, essentially.
Yes.
Made out of like that has the aesthetic of the Groosinator from Skyward Sword, but it launches just bombs around. It would be a fire type weapon.
And reloads so much quicker, please.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh man, I will say Groose made the second imprisoned fight so much easier, and you gotta love him for that because I hated him so much at the beginning of Skyward Sword
Yeah.
because he was like any other typical bully.
And then you love him so much.
Because he gets so goofy and so embarrassed around Zelda. It's hilarious, and you realize just how weak of an ego he has. He's just got to be perfect. But if they added him to Hyrule Warriors 2, yes, I will still make Link OP, not to disgrace Zelda fans out there. But Groose, I will use him so much just to fling bombs at enemies. I would love to blow up a pack of Bokoblins with a giant bomb.
And what's not to love? There's so many characters in this game. I mean, you have Link, you have Zelda, you have Ganondorf, you have Sheik, Impa, and these are all their own incarnations of the characters. Hyrule Warriors' own timeline. But they also bring in characters from other timelines. So you've got Darunia and Ruto from Ocarina of Time, and you've got Zant and Midna and Agatha from Twilight Princess, and you've got Fi and Girahim, and I'm not sure how it's pronounced exactly, from Skyward Sword. And you've also got new characters, Lana and Sia, and her minions, what's his face, Volga and Wizro, and then you've got so many characters. I mean, they introduced the Wind Waker characters, I remember, in the Legends version. So you have Toon Link and Tetra and King Daphnes. There are so many DLC characters as well. I remember getting Young Link from Majora's Mask, and he turned into Fair State of Link, and it's badass. And you've got fucking Tingle.
For a game that does not line itself up with the actual series, I'm really happy that they put so much effort and so much detail into bringing in bits and pieces from every single game. And that's mainly the characters, just because when you add a new character from a specific game, it adds so much more meat to it. It adds so much more nostalgia for people that have actually played those games. It gives them a reason to want to come in and play the game. Like, oh, well, Wind Waker's my favorite game. Toon Link's in this game. You better fucking believe I'm about to jump on this train. Let's get it. I want to. Oh, dude, I love the cartoon animations from the Wind Waker. And I don't think I played Legends, but did they add the cartoon animations for the bombs in Hyrule Warriors?
Yeah, they did.
Oh,
in
man.
some of the stages. Now, not when Toon Link uses the regular bombs, but I think some of the stages do that with like the cannons and shit. Because I love the Wind Waker graphics, and it's so interesting seeing the Wind Waker, cell shaded characters stand with the rest of the like more realistic characters in Hyrule Warriors.
Yep.
It's a really interesting juxtaposition there, but it's a lot of fun, and Hyrule Warriors is definitely recommended. Whether you're a Dynasty Warriors fan, whether you're a Zelda fan, you should definitely check it out.
Got to experience it.
All right, well, let's move on to our next set.
Ooh. My third recommendation for the night. Let's see. When I was a kid, a Game Boy Advance is something I really wanted to have. And my third recommendation for the night is Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. That game, for me, was one of the most fun experiences I have ever had playing a Game Boy Advance game. Just because I had already loved Mario and Luigi going into it, but I didn't have a lot of experience with anything other than, Super Mario Bros. Or Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3. I played the hell out of that game. Like 5-10 times over. It was ridiculous. But Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga was amazing for me, just because not only could you play as both Mario and Luigi, but it had a leveling up system where you could gradually get stronger throughout the entire game, where you would be going across the world and you'd run into an enemy that's randomly scurrying across the ground. And what do you remember the name of the thief from Mario and Luigi and Superstar Saga? Hopple? Popple. Okay, you run into him like 3 or 4 times, and I swear your relationship with him gets so much better throughout the thing. And it's just playing that game and leveling up Mario and Luigi up until you finally face Bowletta at the end of the game. Which, by the way, that fight takes way too long if you are not a high enough level. If you're not level 50 and up, that fight will take you at least half an hour. She has so much health, and her attacks are so hard to dodge. She has a heart laser that she fires at you. Her claws are impossible to jump over and dodge. And I love the character designs in that game.
Yes.
Of course, Mario and Luigi, Bowser, Peach, they're all going to look the same, but Cackletta, she was fantastic. She looked like this green, buggy-eyed alien monster crack thing that was just cackled. I can't even emulate it.
And Fawful. Oh, he's such a great character.
Oh my gosh, with his little beam helmet I love him so much. But there was just so much stuff that you could do in that game, and I really need to pick it up and play it again. But that's definitely my third recommendation. If you haven't played it, go through it and do it, because I don't think there's a level cap on that game either. You can just go around the world and beat the mess out of people, unless there is. If there is, I never reached it. I never.
So there might be some of the later games, but I love the Mario and Luigi RPG series. It is definitely one of my favorites. I actually referenced it in one of the earlier bonus round episodes, our first episode, which was top 5 boss fights. I referenced Bowser's Inside Story, which is my favorite of the franchise as well, but Superstar Saga is really close behind it because it's definitely probably my second. I've played all of the games. I have all of them. I've played both of the remakes, the Superstar Saga remake on 3DS, Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions, and then there's Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey, and they're both in incredible remakes. Definitely, I think a lot of quality of life improvements and just great enhancements of the original, but the originals still hold up to this day. I love, like you said, the art style. I love the gameplay. I definitely think of the two, Mario and Luigi RPG series stands up higher for me than the Paper Mario series, although I love the Paper Mario series as well. But of those two RPG side stories, Mario and Luigi stands up for me just because I love the humor, I love the story, I love the characters, I love that. I love the artwork. Not a fan of how the artwork changed, because I know how you mentioned all the characters' designs were, in the Superstar Saga were really, really great. And even Mario and Luigi's design was originally a little bit different. There's subtle differences between their main series design. And then over time, they kind of started shifting to the mainstream design in the later games when they moved to the 3DS. So, and the remakes kind of reflect that. So that's one of the only downsides. But other than that, I mean, the series is still phenomenal. I love the battle system. I love how you can counter attacks when they're coming at you.
Yeah. When you can jump on their head prior to a fight and they'll start the fight taking damage, that adds a really good advantage to you, especially if you're at a lower level and the common enemies that run around are just a little bit too tough for you at times. It helps to get an advantage because it'll stun them too. And I think my favorite item in the game to work with is the hammer. The hammer is fantastic, and it will always be fantastic in any Mario game. And I also love that you can do team-based attacks where what was it? What were the bro points? They were bro points.
Bro points, yeah.
You could use bro points to, like, Mario would stand in one spot and Luigi would get in front of him and duck down, and Mario would run, jump off the top. No. I'm getting it backwards. Mario would duck down and Luigi would go back and jump off the top, and they would spin off of each other into each enemy, and it would do, like, even at a base level, it would do like 24, 25 damage, and little enemies would just get knocked out. I loved the system of attacking together using bro points. I loved the hit point system, the items that you could collect, like the mushrooms, it was just the bro points, potions, the syrups. The syrups were my favorite things in the game, just because it made me want to, eat syrup. But that's another topic. But yeah, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is definitely a big time heavy hitter for me. And if I could go back and play it right now, which, my laptop is right next to me, so why not fire it up and get the old emulator going, have it going. But yeah, that's definitely number 3 for me. One of my favorite games of all time. We'll definitely play it again very soon. How about you, Ashley? What's your number 3?
Well, I also wanted to mention one thing I really loved about Mario and Luigi, better than the other games, because I wanted to hop off of what you said about the bros attacks. I do think that the first game, Superstar Saga, does the bros attacks better than any other game. I love how every time you unlock ability in the overworld, you unlock it in the battle.
Yeah,
And
that
that
inc-
includes the bros attacks as well, which is something that wasn't reflected in the other games. The bros attacks became more item based in the other games, and with them actually being straight up items in the sequel, Partners in Time. But in the later games, they're like Green Shell and Fire Flower, and they're. I loved the way the bros attacks worked in the first game, and I loved in the first game that you could switch between Mario and Luigi and have one in the lead and one in the rear, something that wasn't done in the following games. And in the remake, they kind of altered it a little bit, but you can still have Luigi in front. So I like that you could switch between them. It made the system a little complicated, but fun nonetheless.
Yeah, once you got
Yeah.
it down pat, it was so smooth and it was so much fun. Once you got really good at that game, the combat was just flawless. And
And the combat is just great. And yeah,
I will also add on, sorry to interrupt there, bud. I
you're
will
good.
also add on that I have never played a game, and this is including the Zelda franchise. God forgive me for saying this, but I've never played a game where I was full of anticipation for each boss fight. Each boss fight was better than the last, and it was just, there was one boss fight where you fight a barrel of soda,
Yes.
and it is
the Chocola Cola.
the Chocola Cola was one.
Yeah.
It was so hard the first time I played it, and I died so many times. But
Me
you know
too.
what? It was fantastic. Gotta love the props to the producers and the game designers for putting that together, because it doesn't get much more creative than that. Like, who else can say in a video game they fought a barrel of soda?
no, who else could say it is just mind blowing how well every boss battle was done, and I love the environments, and I just it is a fantastic game, a fantastic series, and
Yeah.
rest in peace, Alpha Dream.
Rest in peace.
I'm so sad to hear that they bankrupted.
Yeah, you told me that the other day, and I felt it in my soul a little bit, just because the Alpha Dream team, it was just, they made one of my favorite games of all time, will forever be in my heart, and I just, man.
That's pretty much what they're known for. Yeah. I would have loved to see the Mario and Luigi series get ported to Switch and move to 3D. That would have been really, really, really cool.
Yeah, the way, oh man, I can't even imagine what they could have done. There's so many possibilities. Like, Bros Attacks in 3D would be amazing.
Amazing.
Especially, I like how when you're going through a Bros Attack, just to add one more thing, the button timing,
Yes.
how, depending on how well you timed it, was how much damage it would do. And that was cool to me, and seeing that in a 3D space would just blow my mind, because it would probably add a level of difficulty that would make the game a lot more interesting. And it's already fantastic, so come on, blow me away.
They kind of toy with it a little bit in the 3DS installments. They use a little bit of the 3D space, but it's 2.5D. The characters are still sprites. But anyway, my third game is Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I had to cut it off there because I could talk about Mario and Luigi forever.
Me too, brother. I got you.
But yeah, Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I'm a huge fan of the first game. And originally, before I started playing Catalyst again in preparation, I think I liked the first game better. And now I think I like them both for different reasons. But one of the things that I remember playing when I was playing the original Mirror's Edge is, man, this game needs to be open world. Like, I would love to play this gameplay in an open world. And that's what Catalyst did. It brought it to the open world, and it definitely changed the gameplay in a lot of ways. It took a little bit of away of what was in the first game,
Yeah.
which was, I think, kind of the speed running component. But at the same time, it opens up so many more possibilities that it's just a distinctly different game for me.
You could argue and say that it opens up for much more creative speedrunnings. just because I love the design of that game. It's so beautiful, but there's so many different paths that you can take. Of course, the main area is a little bit linear from going back to the base where everybody is and going to each mission to what are they? Pigeon messages? You can no, not pigeon. No, there's no pigeon messages in that game. What is wrong with me? No, the data packs that you can pick off of the little cases on the walls.
Oh yeah. I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved the first game just because it was so much more story driven, but the second game kept the story element but added just this big open beautiful city that you could just explore almost every inch of. And I loved that. I loved the time trials in that game because you could literally choose more than one way to do it the quickest way possible, whereas in the first game it was just how fast could you get through it.
Yeah. And I liked how other players could create their own challenges in the world, and you could play those while you were
Yes.
just traveling around. And the game introduced a kind of a guideline, what do they call it, runner vision, that would show you the easiest path through. But you could go through and you could find your own path and do things a little bit faster. So I usually had runner vision on to kind of give me an idea of where to go, which kind of takes away some of the elements of the first game that made it great, but at the same time it's good because you can run against that and find your own pathways through as well, and you can turn it off if you want and not use runner vision at all. Or I think there's even ways you can tweak it and just have like certain items highlighted but not have the trail and things like that. But yeah, no, Mirror's Edge Catalyst definitely brings a lot of really fun elements to the franchise. It's interesting, we waited so long between Mirror's Edge 1 and Mirror's Edge Catalyst that eventually Catalyst ended up going from a sequel or even a prequel to just a full-on reboot.
Yep. And I love what they did with Faith. Faith was such an iconic character for me in the first game, and I loved the art style that they did for the cutscenes.
Yes.
Almost to like an anime format, and that was beautiful to me. But in the second game, they kept it. I wouldn't say live action. Goodness me, the terms escape me. But I loved the cutscenes and the interactions between the characters, and just Faith as a whole, to me, was a much more prominent character in Catalyst, and that's another reason why I enjoyed the game so much.
You know what else I love about both games is how combat is somewhat optional. I mean, there's some situations where you do have to fight your way through, but it's definitely a lot of situations where you can skip past it. And the focus of the game is to run as quickly as you can and just keep it up, and don't slow down, and just keep moving through the environment and never stop. And you can take out enemies. You know, I love the combat system in Catalyst. I love how you can take down enemies, you know, just run off a wall and then kick them in the head, and you can kick them in the legs, and you can knock them into other enemies or knock them over the edge.
Yeah, there were a lot more options in Catalyst for how to deal with enemies, and it felt like I also liked how the enemies in Catalyst had health bars. In the first game, you just kind of had to wing it and hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And a lot of those combat scenarios were difficult because they had firearms that you could knock out of their arms and pick up, but they had so little ammo in them that you could take out one, but then you immediately have to go in and disarm the next one, which is great if you love a challenge, but it sucks if you're just trying to experiment with the weapons, which I was big on that. I loved being able to pick up the weapons and experiment with those, but the game is about running, and you have to try to avoid. Yeah, I personally feel like you'd have to try to avoid combat as much as possible, but yeah, you're going to have to deal with them from time to time.
Yeah, the game definitely encourages avoiding combat when not possible. I mean, even some of the loading screens mention it. And what's interesting is in the first game, there are firearms, but in the second game, there are none. And I think a lot of that stems from the fact that there were a lot of players who tried to play through. I mean, I saw this as a challenge, was playing through Mirror's Edge without picking up weapons. Which you can do. You can play through the entire first game without picking up firearms, except at the very, very, very end, you do have to use a gun to knock out some servers or whatever. But the second game just took away the firearms completely and kind of made a point of it that it was going to have no guns in it. And I think it definitely developed into a very different game as a result. And I think some people were disappointed that it was so different from the original. But like I said, I appreciate both games for different reasons, and I'm glad that we have them both. And I'd love to see what they would do with the series in the future.
Yes, I think the PS5 and the Xbox Series X have potential to create or house mind-blowing games of that level. A third Mirror's Edge game on these next generation consoles, who knows what they could do, because the power behind these things is insane. And with as much as they added into Catalyst, they'll be able to add so much more to another installment, and I can't wait to see what they might do with that in the future, because this generation may last another 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years. I mean, the Xbox One came out in 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and they're releasing the Series X in November, I believe.
Did they have the release date on that?
I don't think so, but
they're both going to be in time for the holidays. I know that.
yeah, so that gives it about a 7-year time span to really, feel things out, because who knows, technology is growing and it might, just expand faster than we've ever seen it.
And that's about how long it took from the first Mirror's Edge to Catalyst 2. It was a long development time, kind of like Elder Scrolls and Fallout and whatchamacallit, and Red Dead and
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto. They all have like just long periods of time in between because they're great games, and great games take a long. And Zelda, and Metroid. God,
We're not even going to
we're
talk.
not even going to talk about.
You're going to have me in tears on this. Oh my God. I mean, we just talked about the Prime series last time, and I'm still kind of mad that they haven't released a new game yet. I mean, Samus Returns is fantastic. I started playing that again, by the way, and that game is beautiful. The way they incorporate the 3D cutscenes in the 2.5D space is just absolutely phenomenal. I love what they've done with it. So, but yeah, Mirror's Edge Catalyst it's a beautiful game, and I'm really happy that it's on your list, because I haven't gotten to talk about it much. I pre-ordered it about 4.5 weeks before it came out, and every day I would check my Xbox just to look at the date. I was like, this game is about to come out, because
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, I first played Mirror's Edge back in 2007, I think, with my friend Joseph. We were at his house, and he showed me this game. He was like, dude, check this out. This woman does parkour. And he didn't know much about the story. I was like, what? Show me now. And so after a long wait, it was definitely worth it.
It's a parkour game, and it's so much fun, and I love. I love everything about it, and I had so much anticipation for Catalyst, and I was so happy when it came out. It's also one of the few first-person games where you can actually see your feet.
Yes, right? When you're doing rolls or when you're jumping over fences and you have to shrink your body down.
Yeah. And you can look down and see your feet.
Yep.
And see yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, and I'm glad they got the shadows right.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I know that's a little thing that doesn't mean much, but to me it does. Like, if you're playing Ocarina of Time and the shadows are just like little ovals underneath your feet, it's just...
Yeah.
Granted, that's a huge difference in time, but hey,
Yeah. Well, and just, I don't know why so many first-person games don't let you see your feet. I mean, have you ever noticed that? It's such a weird thing. Well, I know why. They didn't want to spend the time to program feet in, and then it just became a standard. But Mirror's Edge stood apart from that. And I was going to say something else about it. And, we will talk about the first game at some point. It's going to come up on the podcast. That's why I didn't put it on the list. I kind of wanted to throw in things that I feel are underrated or are less mainstream onto my list. Although I think everything I picked was something that was kind of fairly mainstream for the most part. But anyway, I guess let's move on to our next set.
Okay, so for my next game, I picked another GBA game. If you're a huge fan of turn-based games, then you're going to love me on this one. But Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones. I got first introduced to this game back in like 2008, and it came out in 2004, but I had never been a huge fan of turn-based games simply because I had never really played them. The first turn-based game that I had ever played was Sonic Shuffle on the Dreamcast, back in like 2003. And that game was awesome, but it made me mad because it was like a knockoff of Mario Party, and as much as I love Mario Party, that game is enraging. But Fire Emblem is phenomenal, just because it takes you to a story where you are following the lives of Erika and Ephraim, two siblings of royalty that are fighting to protect their kingdom. And, this game is amazing to me because, of course, it's on a Game Boy, so the graphics aren't that powerful. But the different worlds that you get to explore and everything is just phenomenal. The different monsters and enemies that you encounter, since it's turn-based, of course, you have a set number of players per turn, and you have paladins, you have sword masters, you have archers, you have specific characters like Erika and Ephraim are royalty, and they have their own specific weapons. Like Erika carries a rapier, a sword meant for fighting cavalry, and Ephraim is a lance wielder, and so he specializes in taking on like armored soldiers and stuff like that. But that game was really fun to me just because it opened my eyes to the world of turn-based games, and I love that. And what would you consider the style of a turn-based game like that?
The style, like, how do you mean?
Nah, not necessarily style, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's an RPG. I've never been good at analyzing that kind of stuff, but thinking about that game, I feel like I should know specifically what type of game it is. It's turn-based, and so I guess I'm kind of over analyzing it a little bit here, but that game is phenomenal. So I'm just trying to think about it. I'm so sorry.
I've never gotten into the Fire Emblem series, but I've played all the characters in Super Smash Brothers. I know Nintendo has a lot of love for the franchise, and originally, prior to Melee, it was a Japanese-only series. It was after Melee that the game kind of got a Western audience because people were interested. Well, who the hell is Marth and Roy,
Roy was in a game that was only released in Japan, and the way you play it in English was you had to download an emulator and get a translator for it. It was called Fire Emblem: The Sealed Sword. It was like Yinshi no Saga or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but that's where Roy was first introduced. And the game that comes after that, Fire Emblem 7, the main characters are Eliwood, Hector, and Lyn. Eliwood is Roy's father, so you get to learn where Roy came from, and you get to learn how his father defended their country before he came in. Because it's basically a game that talks about countries at war with each other until they discover an evil presence that is basically behind it all. And you go in throughout the chapters. Sacred Stones has 20 chapters. The final chapter, you go in and you discover that the Demon King is behind all of this evil that's happening between the countries that are fighting each other. And, I really wish they had given like a mantra to the Demon King or something like that in Super Smash Bros. Or something like that, just because it was such a difficult fight, man. If you play it on hard mode, the final boss has so many more moves. Like, each character has a specific set of moves that they can do. Like, of course, it's turn-based, so when you initiate a fight sequence, the characters take turns. Like, you'll hit, and you have a certain percentage of whether or not you'll hit them. You'll do a critical, and then vice versa. Your enemy will take the turn, and if they have a high chance of hitting you, they're going to hit you. There's weapon triangles and magic triangles, like swords beat axes, axes beat lances, and lances beat swords.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And if you're dealing with a magic wielder, there's dark magic and light magic. There's also anima magic, which is kind of like a mix between the two. Light beats dark, anima beats light, and dark beats anima. So it's really cool the way you get to see all of it turn out. I wish I had more details, but when you asked about the list, that game popped into my head. I was like, oh, I played that game like 7 times as a kid, just because in certain chapters there are these places called arenas where you can go and wager the money that you've got to strengthen your characters and level them up. Each character has a level cap of 20. And once you get them to that level, you can find a pendant or an artifact in the game that allows them to change classes and upgrade. And so I spent a lot of time on it, and I really enjoyed it. If you haven't played Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones and you got a GBA lying around, and you can somehow get on Amazon or eBay and find somebody who's a blessing enough to just sell you a copy, just get into it. It's really fun. I would highly recommend this game. And
I would love to get in. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say shout out to my friend Will for showing me this game. You're the best.
Yeah, I would definitely love to get into the Fire Emblem series, and I'm a sucker for turn-based games, turn-based RPGs. I mean, I love Final Fantasy, Pokemon, but and Paper Mario. I mean, we mentioned that earlier. That's another. At least the first couple games are turn-based, and Mario and Luigi is turn-based as well.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even say that. It's turn-based with free exploration, I guess you would say.
Right, exactly. Which a lot of turn-based games do. My number 4 is Batman Arkham Asylum. I think this is probably the most mainstream game out of the list, but I decided picking Arkham Asylum was good because it's definitely the oldest game, and I think it's one of the more overlooked and underrated games of the series just because Arkham City is just so much better, and Arkham Knight is obviously is phenomenal as well. And a lot of people don't talk about Origins, so I suppose that would have been a good one to talk about. But Arkham Asylum just really was the first game to just really, and I know it's gonna sound cliche, but it was the first game to make you feel like Batman.
Yes, 100%. And I don't blame you for not choosing Origins, because really the only memorable moment from that game for me, forgive me if I'm, causing anybody's blood to boil, but I only really like the fight with Deathstroke in that game.
That's one of the highlights, and I like the crime scenes in Origins. Those were cool.
And Origins didn't use the same voice actors for the characters.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, Kevin
Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Yeah, Mark Hamill was not the Joker. Kevin Conroy was not Batman. And right away, I was like, okay, I can't enjoy this game. But Arkham Asylum is phenomenal. It's just so good. It's so good all the way up until the final fight with Joker. It's just so good.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was kind of weird, but it's a fun fight. No, I just love Arkham Asylum. It has definitely like the best atmosphere. There is something unique about Arkham Asylum that isn't quite in the other games. And even though like Arkham City is objectively superior in every other way, it expands on everything that Arkham Asylum does well and just makes it even better. There is just something about Asylum, about being in that closed-in area with Joker having taken over, and you just kind of feel the gravity of the situation, and
you're isolated.
Yes, and also you kind of see the asylum transform over time, and different enemies occupy.
It gets even worse than it already is.
Yes.
I love how originally you see the guards around, and then later Joker's goons, and then later the fucking psychos take over and kill all the goons, and then Poison Ivy's plants take over and kill all the psychos.
Oh man, it's just one giant Batman-infested snowball.
And then the free flow combat system, detective mode, all the gadgets that you could use, all of the many references to Batman villains in the comics, and it's the one thing everyone says about the game, but it really makes you feel like Batman. It's because it's true. And everything that made Spider-Man PS4 so great, I think, owes to the Batman Arkham series for showing that you could have a good superhero game. In fact, I mean, there's a lot of comparisons. Spider-Man PS4's gameplay is actually pretty similar to Arkham series, but, with Spider-Man instead. And that's not a bad thing to say. This is the way that superhero games should be. I love the stealth gameplay. I love that it touched on every aspect of Batman's character, including, him being a detective. I mean, there have been plenty of Batman games over the years, but none reach the quality of the Batman Arkham series.
No, not at all. Not at all. And honestly, Arkham Asylum was the first game I ever played that incorporated a skill tree where you could just unlock stuff throughout the game just to make yourself stronger, to make yourself more powerful. And it was really cool watching the story unfold. And I haven't played Arkham Asylum in a long time. I think I played it back in 2013 was the first time I played it. So it's been some time, but man, I'm actually working on Arkham Knight right now, and thinking about it, it's just really cool to see how far the Arkham series has come. And I think they're going to, what is it? What's the next game that's going to come out? Gotham Knights?
Gotham Knights. And it's not part of the universe, and it's very different gameplay, but it looks interesting.
It does look interesting, and it kind of makes me sad that they're not making another Arkham game. But I think with the big, I don't want to say that because that might be spoilers for people that haven't seen the Gotham Knights trailer. If you haven't seen it, go check it out because it kind of gives some clarity to the end of the Arkham series if you've played it.
I think Gotham Knights did come out of a Arkham sequel. At some point, the game was meant to be a sequel to Arkham Knight, and that shows because the premise of Gotham Knights is so similar to the ending of Arkham Knight, if not just for a few things that make the continuity just not work between the two. And then they did confirm it's a separate universe, but it originally came out of what was going to be an Arkham sequel, and then it eventually turned into Gotham Knights. Is what I've heard. Originally, there was going to be a game where I think you actually played as Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
But then there were other, I heard other rumors that they were going to have WB Games Montreal take over again instead of Rocksteady. And then they did Arkham Origins and do another integral game between Origins and Asylum because there's a lot of room there for it. But either way, what I did hear is that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League does take place in the Arkhamverse, which doesn't make any sense because Deadshot's black and King Shark looks totally different and is alive, but...
you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to do what you got to do. And honestly, I really hope that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is so much better than the first movie because the first movie was a letdown. But at the same time, they had a solid casting for it. I loved Will Smith as Deadshot.
This is a video game.
Oh,
no, not to be confused with James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
I am so sorry, everyone. Please forgive me.
No, you're good.
This was just announced at Fandom, so the same day Gotham Knights was announced.
Okay, well, my apologies. But hey, hopefully in every way it's still better than the movie.
Yeah.
We talked about it on Collateral Cinema, and I'm kind of an apologist for the movie. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. There are things of it that I like, but I know that James Gunn's version is going to be so much better, and I hope that this game is really going to be really, really, really good. We don't know anything about the gameplay yet. They just released kind of a story trailer, or teaser.
Well, that's going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to have to check that out since very obviously I didn't know very much about it.
And Rocksteady's behind it, so.
Oh, okay. Well then, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, Rocksteady's developing it, whereas Gotham Knights is, I think, by WB Games Montreal. But anyway, let's move on to our final picks of the night.
Oh, okay. So my final pick and one of the biggest heavy hitters of probably my entire gaming life, The Grinch. If you're a fan of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, then this is the game for you. This, let me check really quick and make sure I've got the release date right. Yeah, it was released in 2000 for the Sega Dreamcast and the PlayStation 1. And this, if you've seen How the Grinch Stole Christmas, this basically takes that entire plot and puts it into a video game format. You start the game up on oh my God. Oh, man, you start the game up in the Grinch's lair on the top of the mountain, and he's planning his plot to take Christmas from the Who's, and there's a gust of wind that blows all of his blueprints out into the land, and you spend the game hunting down the blueprints because these are blueprints for gadgets that you can use in the game, like the octopus climbing device. You can use that device to climb on ice walls to get to the top of things. The rocket spring, where you can just launch onto higher ledges. You have an egg shooter. Throughout the game, you use rotten eggs as fuel for all of your devices. You can hold up to 200 rotten eggs, and you can use these to just absolutely wreak havoc on people. There's a slime shooter where you can coat Who's and slime made out of rotten eggs. And this game is absolutely phenomenal to me because this is a game that I grew up playing with my dad. And this was something, my dad isn't much of a gamer, but this is a game that my dad has beat far more than I have. And he still plays it to this day. I'll get up in the morning sometimes to get some schoolwork done, and he'll be playing the Grinch. And I'll just have a little moment of emotion. And sometimes I'll sit down and play it with him because there are still parts that he comes to that he can't quite figure out. And I'll sit down and I'll be like, okay, let me see if I can remember this. But that game is phenomenal because just like at the end of The Grinch, your heart grows 2 sizes bigger and you return everything and you make it right. And I think one of my favorite things about the game is the final, I guess you could call it a final boss, but it's more of a final encounter more than anything. You're chasing Santa while he's on his sleigh, while he's dropping presents down to everybody in Whoville, and you got to shoot him down with your sleigh that you've gone around the world collecting parts for. There's 4 main areas in the game that you can go to. There's Whoville, there's the swamp, or not the swamp, excuse me, the Whoville dump, where everybody dumps their trash. There's the Who Forest, which is like a winter wasteland, and there's Who Lake, where the Boy Scouts of Whoville go and hang out. And in each area, there are 10 missions that you have, and it's just basically sabotaging everything. In Whoville, you can sabotage the mail, you can fire rotten eggs into open windows, you can go inside the mayor's office and deface his statue, and basically you carve it up to where he's wearing a sombrero and a tutu. It's hilarious. And just this game is so nostalgic for me because I've put a lot of hours into it, and it's got a lot of memories attached to the time I've spent with my dad. Ashley, have you ever heard of this game? Have you ever played it?
I've never played it, but it reminds me, from what you're talking about, it kind of reminds me of a series of unfortunate events GBA game. I don't know if you ever played that, but it kind of had you had different gadgets that you would unlock throughout the game, and I remember beating that and having a lot of fun with that for just another movie tie-in game on the Game Boy Advance.
Well, I think I haven't played a lot of movie tie-in games, but I do know that if any of them got it right, it was definitely The Grinch. They followed the plot perfectly. You had so much fun running around as the Grinch, just terrorizing everybody. There were presents laying around the world that you could do you did this thing where you wouldn't double jump, but you jump and you tap A again and you would just butt slam something. You would crush stuff with your butt. There's presents all over the land. Some are worth 1 present, some are worth 10. And you just jump and squash it with your butt. And it's amazing because, of course, you get a special ending if you do 100%. But there was so much stuff to do. And for a game released in 2002, this blew my mind.
Based on a movie.
Yeah, based on a movie. And I was just
movie games are usually not good.
Not at all. I mean, I think my favorite feature in the game, though, was you could use the Grinch's bad breath as a weapon. You could walk, you could walk up to Who's and just breathe on them, and they would either pass out, get scared, and run away. And every time they would do that, they would leave a present behind. You could shoot Who's with eggs, and they would leave a present behind. You could butt pound Who into the ground, and they would leave a present behind. It was just, there was so much stuff you could do, and for such an old game, it was awesome to me. It's a game that I could go in right now after we, finish talking about this. I could just go into the living room and play it right now, just because it's so iconic for me, and it's wonderful. And that's why that's my final pick tonight, because no other game has really stood out to me that much. I play a lot of Zelda, and I play a lot of Metroid, and I'm a huge Call of Duty fan. Please don't hate me. But to this day, I can't think of a game that I've put more time into except Breath of the Wild. But everybody's put so much time into Breath of the Wild. But that game, The Grinch, will always have a special place in my heart. And I just, dude, Ashley, bro, if you can get your hands on this game, it will make you laugh, and you will just have an absolute blast playing it.
And just to be clear, this is based on the Jim Carrey version, right?
Well, this one came out way before the Jim Carrey version. But it's basically the same plot.
Okay.
When did the Jim Carrey version come out? Because if it was before
I think
2002,
around the same time. Yeah, it was in 2000.
Oh, in 2000? So yeah, then this Grinch game was based on the Jim Carrey version, 100%. And they did it perfectly. Everything about the game was amazing. I mean, you could literally run and just tackle the giant Christmas tree in the middle of Whoville just to bring it down. There was so much stuff that you could do.
We did How the Grinch Stole Christmas as our Christmas special on Collateral Cinema this past season. Yeah, and there's so much to love. See, there's another tie-in. The series of Unfortunate Events also had Jim Carrey, so there you go.
I guess Jim Carrey is just perfect for these kinds of roles.
I mean, say what you will about his personal life. I mean, he's an anti-vaxxer. That's kind of That's not so fashionable, but he's a genius.
He is a genius, comedic
He is-
on screen in every
Yeah.
way possible.
He is a genius. Besides the whole anti-vax thing, he's a great actor. He's extremely talented, and I love every role that he plays.
I mean, everyone can have an opinion. I mean, they can be wrong, but Jim Carrey, if you ever hear this, I just want you to know that I love you. But come on,
We blame Jenny McCarthy. It's her fault, okay?
you were just
You know what? What the woman says goes usually. So I'll let you have that one, bro.
that is not a rule I will disagree with. Let it be known. Let it be heard. The woman is always right.
Yeah, it's what I'm learning since getting married, bro.
I'll get there. I promise.
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds like a lot of fun. I'll have to check that out. I mean, like I said, movie games are usually not good, but there's like the occasional odd gem, especially kind of retroactively. You can appreciate things about games today that when it released. But my final pick is also a movie tie-in,
Oh,
and it's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, most people, when they talk about the Harry Potter video games, the favorite is usually Chamber of Secrets. Like among Harry Potter fans, I mean that is the one that is usually considered the highest tier. And I've played Chamber of Secrets, but for some reason, Prisoner of Azkaban always comes to mind. It's a really short game, actually. I played through it all like really, really quickly, and there's not a whole lot else to do besides the story. I mean, you can collect the wizard and witch cards for the chocolate frogs, but other than that, there's not a lot to do. But just the gameplay was phenomenal. It's kind of Zelda-esque, actually.
really?
Yeah, it incorporates puzzle solving, and the later Harry Potter games after this kind of went downhill. They went more action oriented and then exploration, and none of them were as good as the first three, which kind of had this very Zelda-esque gameplay. I wouldn't be surprised if it was inspired by it, because you had these dungeon areas that were spell challenges where you learned a new spell there, and then you would use that spell to solve puzzles and then eventually fight a boss. And what was cool about Prisoner of Azkaban was that you could switch between Harry, Ron, and Hermione. It was the first game in the series to let you do that, and they each had different spells that the other ones didn't.
Nice.
They each had different abilities as well. Harry could jump on between. Harry is the only character who could jump, and had the Zelda, auto jump between ledges thing. Hermione could fit into small holes or underneath grates, and Ron could search through bookcases and find hidden passageways.
You kind of got me wanting to go check it out, because growing up I was never too big on the Harry Potter series, just because my parents weren't too keen on the idea of me watching something that was witchcraft based.
Oh no, you had parents like that.
Yeah, but it's all right. I'm 23 now. They can't say much about it. But what console was this on?
This was on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox. Which I recently replayed it on my Xbox 360. One of the Xbox games that's compatible, and I had a blast with it. I jumped right back into my childhood. I mean, it doesn't stand up as well as I thought it did. I mean, the graphics are kind of iffy, and the voice acting is not the original voice actors, and you can tell. And it's a very short game, and it's not as big. I remember exploring Hogwarts before and thinking how cool it was to go in on every floor and explore it. And it definitely didn't seem as big as compared to a lot of modern day games. But nonetheless, I had a lot of fun with it. I enjoyed going through each part of the story. And I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I read all the books, watched all the movies. I used to be obsessed. I mentioned this in our Lego Harry Potter episode. But I thought it was phenomenal, just as a standalone game. You don't have to be a Harry Potter game. I mean, I think it's really a lot of fun. And maybe Chamber of Secrets is better, but I haven't played it in a long time. Like I said, Prisoner of Azkaban is the one that stands out to me for some reason.
Well, I do have a PS2 here at the house, so I can't imagine not getting on Amazon in the morning and trying to see how much this game goes for, because when you say that it's I'm getting deeper into Harry Potter because I've started watching the movies. I'm on I think Chamber of Secrets right now. I'm on the second movie, and I've started reading the first book. And I gotta say, I love it. It is
Yeah.
amazing, and it is so cool. I think,
It only gets better, bro.
man, I am just so excited to get deeper into it. And I tell you what, man. Oh, it's great, man.
Prisoner of Azkaban is by far the best film, I think, in my opinion. Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 and Part 1 and Part 2 are really good, but Prisoner of Azkaban just has this awesome direction that Alfonso Cuarón goes in that's just completely unique, and it sets the tones for the later Potter films, because the first two movies are kind of hallmarky, but they really darken, which is good because the series later matures, and so kind of setting that dark tone was good. And we'll talk about that because with Collateral Cinema, Prisoner of Azkaban is actually going to be one of my picks for next season. Just a sneak peek, just letting that out there right now. We'll be talking about that.
Well, I tell you what, man. I had a dream one time where after seeing the first movie, I had a dream where I caught the golden snitch.
Oh, really?
Yep. I wasn't doing anything related to it, but I just found it. I think I was like walking down a sidewalk and I found it, and I was like, man, I got to finish this series.
Yeah.
I got to do it.
You know what was one of the best Harry Potter video games to ever come out?
Please tell me.
Quidditch World Cup. It's a whole game that's just about Quidditch, and it is actually really, really good. A lot of Harry. Again, it's kind of held in the same regard as Chamber of Secrets among Harry Potter fans. It's a legitimately pretty good game. And I remember playing that on the GameCube as well.
Quidditch World Cup, man. I want to play Quidditch, even though I know it's probably not possible because we can't fly on brooms.
No.
But that game looks like it's so much fun. I mean it's aggressive at times, and I wouldn't want to get flung into a pillar, but it's worth the sacrifice.
Yeah, Quidditch World Cup was a lot of fun as a game, because you start in Hogwarts, and then once you finish the Hogwarts section and win the house, the Quidditch Cup, then you can get the then you move on to the world, and you can play as a team from England or from USA or from Bulgaria or Ireland, and you can win the World Cup, the Quidditch World Cup.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
FIFA for Magic lovers. It's great.
Yeah, and in each team has different special moves you can use.
Well, I think you sold me, and maybe not just. Oh, I mean, definitely, I'm gonna try this Harry Potter game now. But I want to play Quidditch World Cup. I've got to because I love Quidditch so much. I love the idea of it. It's like basketball, but for gods.
Yes.
Or soccer, but for really just act. Oh man, I'm gonna start talking out of
It's British, so it's football.
football.
But yeah, we're going over an hour now, so I guess we'll kind of wrap it up here. But yeah, I had a lot of fun here. It was fun to kind of talk about my childhood a little bit again.
Dude, yes, I have got so many memories, dude. I'm going to play Superstar Saga tomorrow. I don't care what anyone says. I'm gonna finish my schoolwork and clean up around the house, and then it's time for some Mario. And Luigi. Can't forget. I love you, Luigi. Don't forget, Luigi's Mansion will always be honorable mention. There you go. Luigi's Mansion.
Luigi's Mansion is awesome. And Mario and Luigi Dream Team, that game is dedicated to Luigi because it came out during the year of Luigi.
Yeah.
So that one actually focuses on Luigi, which is cool because Luigi was always my favorite.
Luigi is always Luigi reminds me of the bullied kid in high school that didn't get all the attention. He just kind of tags along with his older brother. But Luigi is he's one of my mains in Smash. Actually, he's fantastic. You hit somebody with a proper up B, they're gone.
Yeah, Luigi was fun, and you don't unlock him till later in Melee. I remember, which is the Smash game I played most growing up.
Same, likewise. That's I never actually played. I mean, I've played it now, of course, but growing up, I never even knew that there was a Smash for the Nintendo 64. I thought that Melee was the first one.
Oh, really?
Lo and behold, my eyes were opened to getting my ass beat in Smash 64 because I was really good at Melee, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna dominate. Oh, I was wrong.
Melee is still considered one of the definitive entries in the series, and it's still played at a lot of tournaments. People still play, and people still prefer to play Smash with GameCube GameCube controllers for some reason. Like that's how they got used to it.
It is 100% the best and easiest and most fun controller layout. When I play Smash, I take a GameCube controller with me. I have to. I just absolutely have to.
I think we can all agree that Ultimate is now the definitive Smash experience, because how could it not be? It includes every single character from every game. So, I mean, there's no contest. It's objectively the best Smash game. But we all have memories of Melee and Brawl.
I mean, unless you play as King K. Rool, then I don't want anything to do with you. You're fired from life if you play as. I mean, sure, he's a character. He's a playable character. But if you play as him or Cloud, you're dead to me.
But yeah, guys, you can find Collateral Cinema wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. I think we just got on Pandora. I didn't realize we weren't on Pandora, so we're on Pandora now. We're on YouTube. I'm actually finally started releasing some of our Let's Plays. I have the Breath of the Wild Let's Play out for our patrons. It is a Patreon exclusive, but part 1 is available for free on YouTube. If you want to watch the rest, you'll get access to the playlist. Not all of it's out there, but I've uploaded most of what we've played now. I figured I might as well upload what we have. There's more Patreon content to come. I'm going to release the Zelda CDI content that we have. I pretty much already have it laid out. I just need to upload it to YouTube. Next time, upcoming, we're finishing up season 2 of Collateral Gaming. Honestly, it was supposed to be done this month in August, or last month in August, but we're finishing up in September. We've got a few overdue entries, but we're going to get it out before we get into season 3 in October. So much for our break, but oh well. We're having fun doing this, but we're going to be talking about Action 52. Zach and I are going to be back talking about that. It is horrible. We're not going to have fun, but we're going to have fun talking about it, and I will probably need to be inebriated in some fashion in order to even get through more of that.
Yeah, I'll buy a 6-pack just for that episode, because that's about what it'll take to get me feeling right enough to talk about that game.
I'll need some kind of an intoxication. I will need lots of weed, and I will need probably alcohol too.
You know what? We should, just in celebration, we should drink 26 beers each and make it an Action 52 for the podcast.
That would be badass, dude.
Oh, we would be gone. Oh, man,
Slurring
dude,
and
I
shit.
appreciate you having me on again, man. This has been an absolute blast.
Yeah, no problem, man. After Action 52, we are doing our season finale on Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I'm super excited about that. I love the Assassin's Creed franchise for all its flaws. It's just one of my favorites growing up. I've been playing a lot more of Assassin's Creed 2 lately, actually. We're going to release a Let's Play on that. I've been recording a Let's Play on that. Also, surprise announcement, we're going to be doing a launch day episode of, well, not launch day because it's already out, but I don't know what we're going to call it, but we're starting a new segment analogous to Collateral Cinema at the Movies edition, where we're going to play games like on launch day or launch week, and not necessarily play through the whole game, but as much as we can, and then just sort of talk about it. And like our first impressions so far, of the game. And so we're going to be doing Marvel's Avengers. I've been playing it, actually. I pre-ordered the game, so I was playing through the beta, and actually I was having a lot of fun with it. The game is getting, I think, a lot of unnecessary hate, but we'll get into that next time. I'm going to go ahead and release that hopefully this weekend, get that out. I know I've got a lot of shit to do, and we've got a lot more bonus round to catch up on before we move into next season, but hopefully we'll get on a more regular schedule then. But yeah, thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely no problem. I really appreciate you having me again. It kind of took me back in time. Minus forgetting the story of Nightfire, that's okay. It's a game I haven't played in almost 13 years at this point. But hey, it's on my list just because it stands out to me, and I put a lot of time in it. But this has been a blast, and I appreciate it, reminiscing on old times, kind of putting me in my video game feels, some of the best games we've ever played, and it's just, they stick out, it's super fun to talk about this kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm super excited.
Well, hell yeah, man. No problem. And I'm happy to have you on more. So, that being said, I'm Ashley Chancellor,
And I'm Zachary Guillot.
and we are Collateral Gaming, and we are out. Collateral Gaming is an L Company production. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.